I want to discuss this scenario, okay, and what liars are. Like, if you talk about the absolution of knowledge, okay, if you can say I know that I know nothing, it's not actually fully correct. It's because we use the word I know the sky is blue, or this is a language we're using the word know, and know is actually an approximation. That's the word human means an approximate witness to reality. So humans can know the sky is blue approximately. It's something termed in the language fundamentally. A human can know the sky is blue because they're approximating the sky being blue, meaning that it's apparently blue under in this context. It's apparently blue. Not, what's to say the word blue is when you have knowledge of all that is? You can't. But the idea of I know that I know nothing, that's not actually congruent language, because you use the word know and nothing, it means different things, not in such an absolution to say I know that I know nothing. Because I know someone said today, he said, I don't know anything, I go everywhere as a white belt. And it sounds great, but it's not actually true. And it becomes that's maybe a black belt type of strategy to kind of win friends and influence people, but it's not exactly true. And example, I know somebody whom I knew personally, and he was like, I'm stupid as hell, I don't know anything. And really, we know that he's an intelligent guy. He's smarter than the average person, and for him to say that, it's kind of just a virtue signal. He's being falsely humble, but he's not saying he's being falsely humble. He's coming from that perspective. But further, that character, whom I knew, he's actually was a kind of despicable and wicked person. And this is a typical thing, to be wicked and despicable, and to virtue signal, have exterior motives that are hidden. What you're saying on the outside is not what you're doing on the inside. And that he was someone to betray your trust, that's what I learned him to be, and viciously. And what it is, people like that, to trigger their rage is to say that decency and goodness is better than evil. And that really triggers people. That really does. So people who are there's just nothingness, there's absolution, and there's nothing. They feel this way. Another example of a character like that, he was this guy, he was on the streets, and he's an alcoholic, and I got to knowing him, and I wanted to help him out, because he actually was a very intelligent person, and he did web design, but he was good at it, and he was just an alcoholic, and he's actually a character. He wasn't just an alcoholic, because he had paranormal effect around him, which is quite I think interesting thing to look at, and people will dismiss the idea of paranormal, particularly the faithless and the dishonest and the corrupt. There's no such thing as supernature. There's only greed, and there's only self and greed. This is kind of it's a very important thing to recognize, that there is that polarity, the cynic, or the pathologically evil person. And that's a terminology that should need qualifying, because what is pathologically evil? That is someone with an absolution of knowledge. Okay? That's really, and their behaviors, you can empirically gauge them. You can empirically gauge their behaviors, but what can anyone empirically engage? But that being, you can grab the congregation of the people, all of the people, and see what it is that we are witnessing. And we can go to the historical records and such. We have in our historical records, we have the understanding that people live approximately this long in their life, and that's been going on for however many years we have our historical record. There's a kind of a knowledge base that we can recognize in the Congress of the people and in our, archaeologies. We can come to some understanding. But there's no absolution of knowledge outside of that. You can't have, you can only go by what we can gauge in conjunction with what we have available to us. But I'll tell you this character who is a strange character. I want to be brief in this. I was feeding him money. I was helping him out, buying him some alcohol and food, and even give him some money so he has some money in his pocket. And we would talk at length. And I was trying to convert him to to a Christian worldview. And one thing he said, "Oh, you're like one of the smartest people I've ever met." And he said, and that means a lot because I'm a pretty intelligent guy, and really, wow. He said, that's why, partly why I was in communication with this guy, and we were having enjoyable conversations in discussing topics that are not so superficial. We're getting involved in a lot of what we were talking about. But in a few weeks' time, I gave him a couple $100, and like I said, it wasn't a loan. It was a gift. And the thing that wound up happening though is that he actually robbed me of like $400 of my property, which maybe he sold it for like maybe $20 or like $50 or whatever he got. And he did it like spitefully because I didn't give him money because I was just like, I don't really have any money to give you today. And he's like, yeah, you can give me some money. And that was his payment for what I had offered him, my concern and whatever funds I had that I had in my generosity. And that's how he retaliated, because he is one of those absolutionist cynics. Okay, but what is he? And I call them bukas. Okay, and it's like an undead spirit. And so what I think goes on is certain people when they die, who have a rejection for the light, they come and they meet an entity, we call him Lucifer, and he comes to meet Lucifer, and Lucifer says, okay, we're going to be Antichrist, we're going to pretend we're Christians, or pretend to be benevolent, but be insidiously in violence towards the rational witnesses of Christ. Okay, and this is a phenomena I'm saying happens. And the reason why I'm going to say this happens is because I met many of these puka characters, these bukas, these undead entities, and the paranormal. I can tell you what's paranormal about this guy. This guy was a character that I met him in a city, but he didn't know the geography of the city. He just knew like the vicinity of like a one block, okay, like 1 or 2 blocks. And I'm like, how is it that? And he said he was living there for 7 years. How could he be living in the city for 7 years and not have like it wasn't like he was lying. He just really didn't know where he was. And I'm like, dude, we're like 1 block over, or like 2 blocks over. It's like completely like, he's not even drunk. He's just completely disoriented. It's not like, is he trying to fool me? No, this is just something like, it was very apparent that he really didn't know. And it's an odd thing. And that was not the only odd thing. And there was several odd things of that nature. And here's another thing. I'm going to talk about the sense of smell indicates certain things that your sight and vision do not. I've come to recognize this. So we're in this world that's synthetic. It's a synthetic world, and there's scents that you can smell. You can smell, but your nose can detect that has strange anomalies with that. And what I mean is this: like you can, let's say, by your sight and your sound. Orientation, you're going in a certain way, but just imagine there's a scent orientation. Now you can recognize the scent orientation, and you can recognize the actual physical qualities of it, but it's not overlapping with your visual and ocular senses. So I've noticed this on numerous occasions. This just happened the other day, which hadn't happened in years prior, but that's a very strange phenomena. But see, that's a paranormal indicator that around this character I noticed many things of that sort, and there's a whole list of other strange anomalies similar in that regard. It goes further, like he would lie about things that he shouldn't be lying about. I still have you can't have a practical, mundane explanation for it. I can give examples of things he lied about that doesn't have a practical, mundane reason, but the paranormal reasoning you can see, okay? You can see that because he's an entity, like I said, an undead entity in the service of Lucifer, and this is what is going on in our world.